This is the Inside Track. We discuss health, healthcare, and medical insurance simplified. Powered by Total Risk Administrators and the TRA experts Warren, Alan, Dr. Avron, Rena, Jeff, and Kim. Sharp insight, real conversations. Let's go.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our Exercise as Medicine series. We had the chance to listen to Associate Professor Torres, and Dr. Avron will give us more information on that. But it's incredible that just simple exercise can do so much for your body. So, Doc?
The first episode was so exciting. We learned so much in terms of exercise is medicine. We always thought exercise maybe is an adjunct to medicine, but we learned that exercise is medicine. And we had great response from our viewers and listeners, and really ties in nicely to our second episode where we chat to Georgia Torres, who's associate professor from Wits University and head of department of exercise science and sports medicine. And really we focus in on the practicalities in the second episode. Firstly, creatine. We know a lot about it. We've heard a lot about it, but practically how does it work in the body, and should adults be taking creatine as a supplement? And then secondly, the practicality of getting going, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people ask, well, how do I just start with my exercise routine? So I think the associate prof takes us through that,
Sure.
explains that, and also at different ages. How do you, what important exercise are you looking for at different ages, and how do you implement it? So there are a lot of practical lessons that came out of this interview. So let's listen to you.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Here's the key question then. If someone wants their biggest return on investment on their health, which you spoke about, exercise just is incredible. Those numbers are unbelievable that you spoke about. What would an ideal weekly exercise routine look like? I mean, I know it's how long's a piece of string, but maybe just to give some indication for our listeners and viewers.
So if you're just looking at health, and I'm not looking, not performance, because that's a different story.
Yes.
But if you're looking at health, the amount that you have to do cardiovascularly, so aerobic, and I'm saying from someone who's sitting on the chair, on the couch and doing nothing, to starting, they'll get a great effect, huge effect, from nothing to 10 minutes. And that's the steepness of the reduction of the curve of reduction when you compare it to mortality. So up 10 minutes, okay, of cardiovascular exercise. In that, twice a week, put in at least 5 body resistance exercises. So don't even go to the gym. Stand on one leg, do some squats, do push-ups against the wall. Take a ball and roll over it in a prone position. So all 5. And that already, and you build on top of that. We are trying to get to 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise, which means exercise that we can, while we're doing it, we can actually talk, but we can't sing. Vigorous, we can't talk or sing. 75 minutes of vigorous. So if you're getting to doing high intensity exercise, you don't need to do as much in the week. That's what we're getting to, but it doesn't mean that we have to do 30 minutes 5 times a week and then add 2 sessions of body muscle strengthening exercises. We can start at 10 minutes, and we know that 10 minutes has a huge effect.
So I get that you've got to just start somewhere, and even start, if you're doing nothing, start building it up. But the ideal, when you say 150 minutes a week, is that 150 minutes of cardio or 150? So let's say it's 30 minutes 5 times a week. Is that 30 minutes of cardio, or is it 20 minutes of cardio and 10 minutes of exercise?
No, that's just cardio.
Cardio, 150 minutes a week, that's 30 minutes over, say, 5 days.
Or 75 of the high intensity vigorous
Got
exercise.
it. Okay, and then muscle strength, how much time?
Two times a week. And that session can last 15 minutes. That's fine. Doesn't have to last an hour. 15 minutes, twice a week.
Fine. So you could break up your week. You do something every day. 5 of those days, you do 30 minutes of cardiovascular. And the 2 other days, you do muscle strengthening, 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to start. Would that be sort of at a level that you're starting to get maximum return on investment, or is there a higher level, to get maximum return on investment?
So we know that 70% of the benefits plus minus occurs at that level.
Okay.
The more you do, the more you gain. And there's
Ah.
no, at the moment, in terms of health, using that particular exercise, there hasn't been shown to be a reduction in benefit. You know, when we talk about ultra distance athletes and the volumes that they do, that's, you know, that's like triple the amount of the recommended health. So we're not even getting there. But so there's nothing showing that there's a risk as you increase it. But 70%, 75% of the benefits happen there. The steepest happens from doing nothing
Right.
to something.
Yes. But 75% of the benefits that we spoke about and the significance of it would be at 150 minutes a week.
That's right. Of
And
moderate.
plus 2 muscle strength of moderate and two sessions of muscle strengthening. I think that's important takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah. And
Now,
the good thing is that moving to, and this is the night, moving towards high intensity exercise, because high intensity exercise has huge benefits in itself, different to low intensity, moderate, continuous exercise. You need to get there. And so then you can do less time, 75 minutes.
Sure. Got that.
So you
One
know,
of the
something like example, a high rocks or a metabolic training where you've got weight and cardio in between. Beautiful.
that you
Because
do a
then it's
combination.
working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Georgia, one of the buzzwords at the moment that's going crazy on the social media networks, and I was asked to ask you this question, is about creatine, right? We know that it started with in the fitness muscle world, but there's a lot of new data coming out in terms of obviously for a general person's muscle strength and other benefits beyond that. Can you first explain to what is creatine, how it helps the muscles, and actually what are the benefits that the data is showing?
So if we go back to our biochemical pathways with the first, when we do short, intense exercise, the first thing that supplies us with that ability is what we call creatine phosphate connected to an ATP molecule, and it produces ATP, which is the energy that causes muscle contraction, that allows us to have muscle contractions. Now, if we give our body creatine, and we're talking about creatine monohydrate here, not combinations of it. So if we give creatine, then that becomes creatine phosphate in the body. So it increases the amount that we have to be able to generate energy. Okay. So what it does is it increases the capacity for energy production. With that comes, and this is where it's been used mostly, if taken, and the secret is the dosage. And that's where people, I think, get a little bit confused. A dosage that's going to increase the muscle bulk. So, you know, like the bodybuilding world used it, is a huge dosage. It's 5 grams 4 times a day. A health dosage that's been shown now to have cognitive good effects, to have strength effects, recovery effects, is a small dose, especially for women, 3 to 5 grams a day. Can you see the difference between the dosages? So you know, women have always been worried that it is a bodybuilding tool, or, you know, children, adolescents, and they've been using it for that purpose. With the higher dosages come more of the side effects that we hear, gastrointestinal things, ligaments and tendons that can't keep up with the growth of the muscle, so that there's tend to be tears there. So accumulation of water, because it will the creatine will accumulate water, and glycogen, so there'll be an increase in weight, which is what the bodybuilders wanted. The women don't want it, but not at the lower dosages. So all the research at the moment is really showing safety, even in adolescents, and benefit from low dosing of creatine. Now,
when you say low dose, are you saying 5 grams a day?
Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Is that like 1 teaspoon a day?
Yes.
Right.
So the low doses are fine. We don't know what the high doses do to adolescents. That's my problem. There's not enough research to show them. My other problem is that because the supplement market is not regulated, you're not sure what's in there is in there. And that's the difficulty. So you got to make sure that, you know, what you're buying is is good, and there's been, there's this company called Sport Informed, or that takes randomly batches of certain things, like Biogen, for example, and they test it. And they then give it the stamp that, yes, what you say is in here. But not all products are done.
Assume you're taking a trusted brand of creatine monohydrate. We understand how it affects muscles. How does it affect, and I've seen data coming out in terms of your cognitive brain functioning. What's the effect there that it obviously can improve that?
I have to say, I haven't seen exactly how, so like the pathways or how it does it. But I think the brain works on a supply of energy. The brain works on glycogen being available. If it's not available, it doesn't work too well. I mean, if you go and run and you hit that wall, actually what stops you is your brain, because it stops the muscle. You could go for longer, but your brain stops you. And I think that building that capacity of glycogen availability actually helps the cognitive pathways. So I'm assuming theoretically that is how it's doing it, but I haven't, to be honest, read enough around exactly how it does it. But it definitely does influence cognitive ability.
So should all adults, unless they have kidney disease or contraindicated, do you think all adults should be taking some creatine as a supplement?
Yeah. Better than if we all take vitamins, right? And we
Sure.
don't necessarily need those vitamins.
Sure.
So if you take creatine, and especially if you're exercising regularly, or you're that weekend warrior who's doing a lot on the weekend, it helps. It helps a lot.
So let's make it clear.
But
You're
keep
not
it
a
to
muscle. You're not a
the low dosage.
Yes.
Low dosage.
Fine. Keep it to the low dose, but we've been clear. You're not going to you're not a muscle. You're not working on weightlifting, etc. You're just the average person who's exercising regularly.
That's right.
Adult. There is
Yes.
data to show that you should be taking creatine, and it will help both your muscle, your strength, and brain and cognitive functioning.
I'm just reading here what other stuff it affects. We've talked about it increases fat-free mass, which is what we want. Chest press strength, functional capacity, including sit-to-stand performance for our oldies. Lean tissue, again, memory, attention, speed, greater effects on adults aged 18 to 60, and greater effects on females.
Okay.
So yeah, very, very interesting data coming out, I have to say.
Okay, fine. So we'll just keep watching that, and you can keep us informed. But that leads us on to, as we spoke about, getting a bit older. And we obviously have a whole range of ages listening to our podcast, from the youngsters, and a lot of that creatine came in from them, etc. But I did want to focus on, as we get older, the 50s and 60s and beyond. How should our exercise change, or should it change at all? I think that would be very interesting to our listeners.
I think the only thing that I have seen is that strength training becomes more important the older we get, because we lose muscle strength a lot more than we lose our cardiovascular fitness. So I swap it around. As we get older, over 50, try and put a strength training thing that you love in more, and like 3 times a week, and you do 2, for example, your cardiovascular. So swap it around as we get older, and load the muscle, especially for women, with the loss of estrogen, we start losing bone density, not to mention the cognitive stuff that happens, but bone density and muscle density and strength decreases so much more. And we only have strength training that can stop that.
Right. So would you say, and I wanted to ask you that, in the menopausal or postmenopausal phase for women, exercise and strength training, very important.
Yeah, and I'd like to just refer to she's quite popular at the moment with ladies. When women get to perimenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopausal, the physiology changes a lot, and how women respond to exercise when they're younger and when they hit this funny period is very, very different. So Dr. Stacey Sims, her stuff's quite available. She does a lot of menopausal and perimenopausal stuff, and she has shown with the research that actually women in that category need to get to high intensity strength training.
Right.
So, you know, the high roxes of the world
Yes.
are good for that.
Fine.
But
So
remember, we have to get to that. You can't just like,
yes,
you're going to get injured if you dive into something that, you know, you're not accustomed to. That's just
sure.
logic.
So as you're getting older, start switching it around, strength training, muscle strength, but still keep that cardiovascular
Yeah,
fitness in place.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Georgia, what role do recovery and sleep play in getting the benefits of exercise and staying healthy long term, right? I mean, you can't be exercising 24 hours a day.
No,
You need some
no.
time to recover and
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah.
And has that been shown
So,
to be important?
yeah, so we know and we've seen that the benefits of especially strength training don't take part during the strength training session. They take part during your rest and recovery, during your sleep. And if that's not happening properly, you're not going to gain the all the benefits that exercise can give you. So it is a very important part. And we have a sleep lab at WITS that can analyze, you know, when if your sleep is not right, you can find out when is it happening and maybe link it to things and sort it out, but it certainly needs to be sorted out. You know, there are gadgets now that will tell you you're not sleeping well, but they're telling you you're not sleeping well, but then you need to know why and when's it happening. Is it your REM sleep, or is it right just before you went to sleep or tried to sleep because you watched something on your phone, or you know, so the analysis becomes important to me, because even if this little gadget tells me that I haven't slept well, if I get up in the morning and I think I've slept well, and the gadget tells me I haven't slept well, this mind-body connection becomes quite a big thing.
Yeah.
So it's going to say, yeah, you haven't slept well, and vice versa. But what it does is, I think, alert you to the fact that you're not sleeping well, and then you can actually go have a look at it, because it is vital in restfulness. And also, hormones are released during rest that are not released during the day or during exercise,
Sure.
that have a healing and a recovering benefit to the body. And if you're not getting that time, it's a problem.
So for the full benefits of your exercise, sleep
We have
recovery,
to,
very important, and start
yes,
monitoring that.
yes.
Georgia, when we were talking about to set up our discussion, you were telling me a bit about the WITS sports center that you're involved in setting up. Maybe you can just tell us, listen, what are you involved in? What's it about? And it's very exciting that we're bringing something like this to Johannesburg.
So at WITS University, the Zylstra family, who are alumni, had been at WITS from grandparents to sons, had set up a foundation there for many, many years. And they, together with Prof. John Patricius, had the idea of building a sports institute. You know, we've had it in Cape Town, we have it in Pretoria. WITS has never had something like that. We've had a center of exercise and sports medicine, but not a sports institute. So they donated a grand amount of money to build the WITS Zylstra Sports Complex, which is going to be a place where we do sports science. So it is performance based, where we're going to look after athletes with high-tech equipment, with high-tech assessment tools, with a sports clinic that works with an integrated disciplinary team, from sports physician through to bio, through to physio, through to sports scientist, through to OT, for example. They're all in the same packet. And we're using a central database to help us intercalate that team and get a proper picture of our athlete. But at the same time, it's also going to be a sport and exercise medicine facility. We're going to run the you know that the medical specialty is recognized now for sport and exercise medicine. So we're going to run that degree from there. And we're also going to, big part of it, we are running intervention programs for chronic disease management, starting hugely with cardiac rehab, diabetes rehab, and cancer exercise oncology.
Are you involved in running it? Are you setting it up?
So I'm at the moment the COO for
Wow.
to start it off for operationally.
Yes.
And the launch is 30th of May, so it's quite close. And yeah, it's a very exciting time for me in the sports in the sports field adverts. It's very
Please
exciting.
keep us
It's
up to
just
date on
bringing up-
that.
Yes, I will definitely do so.
Yeah, I think very exciting. We want to hear the information. It's an exciting development for South Africa. And we've got great professionals involved like yourself and many others. And I think the data and the input and the training coming out of that will just be amazing.
And we're also making it a place where obviously academics will happen, but also education will happen.
Yes.
Where we're going to be running, top class and current stuff around sports science and sport and exercise medicine.
Right. Georgia, it's been an amazing show. So, and so interesting for our listeners. And I always like to leave off with some positive advice, what we can tell our viewers or listeners. So what 3 exercise related piece of advice that you would have that could have the biggest impact on someone's long-term health? What would you say to them?
So I heard these and I think these are so good. And I wrap them up. Okay, I take them from, because I'm going to give her credit. Mel Robbins. 1, put it in your diary. It is an appointment. If it be 10 minutes, if it be 5 minutes, put it down in your diary. Exercise is not going to happen if you wake up and the day takes you. Plan it. 2, chunk it down. Make it easy. So in other words, if you only have 5 minutes and it's better to do your 5 minutes of push-ups and ball work than to do nothing, because I don't have so much time. So 10, 10, 10, you can chunk it down like that, make it simple for your life. If you're going to pick up the kids, maybe get there 10 minutes earlier and you could walk around the beautiful facilities, for example, maybe. And 3, especially for women, but men can take that example. First thing a woman should do in the morning is have a protein before anything, and then start the day. So those
Great.
are
And that's a whole other discussion we're going to have to talk about. But I love those pieces of advice. Put it in your diary, chunk it down, and start
Have
off
your
your day with protein.
And in our case, creatine would be involved in looking
Yes,
at that.
add that in as well.
Yeah.
Prof. Georgia Torres, thank you so much. I think it's been amazing, so enlightening, and an absolute pleasure. Thanks for spending the time and educating our listeners and our viewers. And it's just been an amazing Inside Track podcast. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. You all take care.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks
bye.
a lot. Bye.
Well, I mean, that's superb information. That I particularly like the fact that, she recommends that everyone should be taking creatine.
Yes.
She talks about that, and she also talks about how the different dosage applies to different age groups, male, female, that sort of thing. So I really like that, and the practical advice. I like that. It's something that our policyholders, our viewers can implement even today.
Exactly. Creatine is a very hot topic, and actually within the boundaries, the suggestions there from the prof, and how do you get going? I often get asked the question, how do you start? I'm not doing anything. So I think there was a lot of practical advice, and love to have input and feedback from our listeners on this topic.
Yeah.
And if necessary, we'll do further podcast and exercise.
Good. So again, we asked our artificial intelligence engine to come up with some of the questions in the industry regarding the future of gap cover in South Africa, because we know that as we discussed in the last episode, it's essential. It's no longer just an optional. It's an essential sort of cover. But what is the future of gap cover in South Africa? So we've got some lovely questions, and again, we're going to rely on Ellen to give us the expert view. So let's talk about regulation, Al. What laws allow gap cover to exist?
Thanks, Warren. Gap cover exists under the demarcation regulation, meaning 2 sides. One is the medical scheme side, and the other one is the insurance side.
Okay.
Which allows insurers to offer medical expenses shortfall policies, but not doing the business of a medical aid. I think that's the fundamental difference.
Yeah, and I think that's important that we explain that.
This means that gap cover can fulfill funding gaps, but cannot replace your medical aid because that's under different regulation.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that's very important, because there is that misconception out there that I can choose either one.
Sure.
Yes.
You can't.
And they're very different.
Yeah, they're very different, but they can only work in
tandem.
harmony.
Exactly.
in tandem.
And at the base of the pyramid, you need your medical aid, right?
Yeah,
You need that
correct.
cover. You
Yeah.
can't build anything
Can't
on that
now.
without having it.
100%.
So I mean, I think that's a great question, and I think we've covered that nicely. Al, there's a lot of talk about national health insurance. Could NHI affect gap cover and the way that the industry is run?
Warren, potentially yes, but just to clarify, the National Health Insurance Act aims to create a single purchase of healthcare services. Right now, the discussion is around a primary package, primary benefit package. We don't know what is in and out of that primary benefit package. I don't think that the policymakers are quite there yet.
Yes.
And that's important that when the purchase of health services determines what that primary benefit package is, we will know how to design either the medical scheme or the gap cover for us.
Sure. And in fact, we know from recent events that the NHI has been put on hold.
Correct.
We do know that
Sure.
came through from the regulators. So currently it's on hold. So yeah, potentially we could be affecting gap cover, but not right now.
Exactly.
I think we need to get on with our job and
Yes.
keep
And I
on
don't think our
covering.
consumers need to take that into their
No,
consideration.
not at the moment.
Not at the
No,
moment,
I don't think it's-
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from our side, it's business as usual. Are gap cover benefits improving to keep up with rising costs, Al?
I would say yes, Warren. We review annually from where we sit. Many policies have increased their overall annual limit. For example, rising to around 219,845 Rand per person per annum. And we structure our benefits according to that.
Accordingly, yeah. I think it's important that that's a legislated amount.
Yes.
We get given that amount to actually operate under. So
Yes.
I think it's kept nice and tight there, which is good for the consumer. Let's focus on some new areas that gap cover providers are focusing. What's new in the industry?
There are several areas that's emerging that's new. Procedure for co-payments.
Yeah.
Pretty new. Cancer treatment. Cancer treatment is quite an advanced technology that comes our way, and we're keeping track of that, and we keep up with that. Prosthetic and devices is important. That's a new area. Trauma and accident cover. Specialist consultations. We've introduced a new.
We've introduced that job. We've got that heating up benefit. So
a very, very nice benefit.
Yeah.
Pre-admission.
Yeah.
The trend is moving from simple tariff gap to a broader shortfall protection.
Yeah. And I think that's good to see.
Yeah.
And we know that the range of medical services and treatments is expanding all the time. So it's important that gap keeps up with that, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Which we're confident that certainly at TRA we're keeping up.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%,
Absolutely.
100%.
And then, in the last episode, we looked at how do you, the mistakes people make when choosing gap cover. But let's throw a positive spin on it. What should consumers look for when choosing gap cover?
Very, very important question, Warren, no doubt about it. Overall, policy limit is very important so that you know what your threshold is in terms of claims. Co-payment protection vis-a-vis your own medical scheme.
Yeah.
Of course, oncology benefits is important. Casualty benefits. We've got a very, very nice casualty
Yes.
benefit.
And I think that's
Yeah.
an important one.
Yeah. Waiting periods and exclusions.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And of course, age limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at those factors, you're pretty much on a good trajectory because not all gap covers are the same.
Yeah.
Okay. We always say one size fits all. And in our language, one size doesn't fit all.
You're right. I mean, we set it with our policyholder demographics. We don't have everyone on one of our options. They spread across the 4 options, so it makes sense. And then the final question, I suppose, this one we could debate for years to come. What is the long-term future of gap cover here in South Africa?
Warren, that's you say we can debate it, but it's a very, very important question because as long as private healthcare costs keeps rising faster than inflation, medical schemes reimbursement and the need for gap cover will remain. There's no doubt in my mind.
Sure.
The industry evolving towards a more sophisticated financial protection in terms of products, rather than simplifying gap cover. There's a lot of movement in the industry, a lot of consolidation, a lot of packaging of benefits.
Sure.
And it makes gap even more important.
Yeah.
So
Just think about the global fee.
sure.
Very, very important, because if gap doesn't keep up with that,
Yeah.
we lose our
So
momentum.
we're essentially saying that in today's time, 2026 now, is that you should not have just medical aid without at that base pyramid without a gap, some type of gap cover, right?
Yeah.
Into your investigation, because as a consumer, you're exposing yourself to quite extreme risk in terms of the financial shortfall.
Yeah.
It's not just a small amount anymore.
Yeah. And then just sort of maybe the closing remark, in terms of the future of gap cover, we've embarked on this interesting concept of a gap cover provider network.
Yes.
Maybe you want to just give that's part of our future. It's not just covering shortfalls, it's negotiating with providers
Sure.
to
Drive the cost
negotiate, to drive the shortfall down effectively.
We try and pioneer TRA, and one of the things we firmly believe in, and one of them is to develop this network, gap cover network providers, which certainly facilitates and makes it much easier to use certain providers. Obviously, individuals can use any provider, but obviously providers on the network. So we've launched that network, and it's growing, and we've got a significant amount of providers on the network.
Well, that's
So it's
fantastic.
quite exciting.
And our policyholders benefit from it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think another good podcast. Excellent information. Exercise is medicine.
Exactly. And then once again, if I just ask our listeners and viewers if there's any questions they've got on the exercise in medicine, the exercise side of things, or any other topics, healthcare topics that they'd like to hear, please email us on the address, as well as any general gap questions that we'll obviously try and answer for them.
Great.
100%.
Great.
I think that's it. Let's let Gappy have his say.
Don't stress, the gap is covered.